The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Empire's High Council fell silent as Fleet Commander Davis stumbled through its massive golden doors. His usually pristine uniform was wrinkled, and dark circles under his eyes showed his exhaustion. The 12 council members looked down from their elevated seats, their expressions a mixture of annoyance and curiosity. "Fleet Commander, explain your unscheduled appearance," High Counselor Ross demanded, his voice echoing in the chamber. Davis took a deep breath. "My lords, I bring a warning about a newly discovered species in the Outer Rim." His hand shook as he activated his holographic projector. "We found them 3 standard weeks ago in a seemingly unremarkable solar system." The projection showed a small blue planet, third from its sun. Several council members yawned, clearly unimpressed. "Another primitive world for our collection?" Counselor White asked, already reaching for his approval stamp. Davis shook his head vigorously. "No, my lords. This is different. We followed standard first contact protocols, approaching with our most advanced cloaking technology active. But," he paused, his voice trembling, "they detected us instantly." This caught their attention. The Empire's cloaking technology was unmatched across 12,000 worlds. "Impossible," Counselor Green declared. "Our cloaking systems are perfect." "That's what we thought," Davis continued. "But not only did they detect us, they sent us a message in perfect Imperial standard." He pressed a button, and a calm human voice filled the chamber. "Imperial vessel, you are entering restricted space. Your cloaking technology is outdated by our standards. Remove yourself from our system, or we will be forced to demonstrate why." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Imperial standard had never been broken before. "Surely you retreated to observe further." High Counselor Ross leaned forward. Davis wiped sweat from his forehead. We thought it was a bluff. Our scans showed their technology was barely at level 3, while we're at level 9. We decided to push forward." He pressed another button, and the projection changed to show a recording. The council watched in stunned silence as a small human vessel, no larger than a scout ship, appeared from nowhere. It fired a single shot that somehow ignored their shields completely. The Imperial scout ship's engines went dead instantly. They disabled a Class A Imperial vessel with one shot. Counselor White's voice cracked. "Yes, my lord, but that's not the worst part." Davis changed the projection again. "When we tried to activate our emergency beacon, we discovered they had already downloaded our entire database. They sent us this message before releasing us." A new voice played. "Your encryption was interesting, but outdated. We've copied your database for study. Leave now. This is your only warning. Next time, we won't be gentle." "They let you go?" Ross asked, incredulous. "Yes, my lords. They said it would be unsportsmanlike to destroy us when we were helpless." Davis's voice was barely a whisper. "They even fixed our engines before sending us away." The chamber remained silent for a long moment before Ross spoke again. "Recommendations, Fleet Commander." Davis stood straighter. "My lords, in my 30 years of service, I've never encountered anything like these humans. They detected technology they shouldn't have been able to see, broke codes they shouldn't have known existed, and disabled systems they shouldn't have understood." He took a deep breath. "I recommend we mark their system as forbidden space and warn all Imperial fleets to avoid contact." Laughter erupted from several council members. High Counselor Ross smiled condescendingly. "Fleet Commander, while your caution is noted, we are the Galactic Empire. We do not run from primitive worlds." "But my lords." "You are dismissed, Commander. We will handle these humans like we've handled thousands of species before them." Ross waved his hand dismissively. "Send in the diplomatic fleet. Standard subjugation protocols." Davis walked out slowly, his shoulders heavy. As the doors closed behind him, he whispered to himself, "They're not listening. The humans tried to warn us nicely." He shook his head. The Empire has no idea what it's about to start. Inside the chamber, The Council was already planning the integration of Earth into the Empire. None of them noticed that their supposedly secure communication systems had been compromised, and every word of their planning was being transmitted to a very interested audience on Earth. The humans were ready. They had been preparing for this moment for centuries. The Imperial diplomatic vessel Star Ruler dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Captain Gray stood proudly on his bridge, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Behind his ship, 50 smaller warships waited in attack formation, all still cloaked. "Begin standard subjugation protocol," Gray ordered, straightening his ceremonial uniform. "Send the peace message." His communications officer nodded, transmitting the carefully crafted message that had worked on thousands of worlds before. It was designed to sound peaceful while containing hidden threats. The response came almost instantly. "Imperial diplomatic vessel Star Ruler, this is Admiral Roberts of Earth Defense Command. We accept your invitation to meet. Please proceed to these coordinates." Gray frowned. The humans weren't supposed to know his ship's name. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "the humans are transmitting in perfect Imperial standard, using our own military frequencies." "Impossible," Gray muttered. "Those codes are unbreakable." He shook his head, remembering his mission. "Proceed to the coordinates. Maintain cloak on our support fleet." The Star Ruler moved forward, approaching a small space station orbiting Earth's moon. Gray smiled when his sensors detected only 2 small human ships nearby. This would be easy. As they docked with the station, Gray prepared his practice speech about the benefits of joining the Empire. He straightened his collar one last time before stepping onto the station with 20 armed guards. Admiral Roberts waited in the meeting room, wearing a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. He stood alone, without guards, which made Gray even more confident. "Welcome to Earth space," Roberts said warmly. "Would you like to discuss your planned ambush now, or should we pretend for a few minutes that this is actually a peace mission?" Gray's smile vanished. "I don't know what you mean." Roberts pressed a button on his desk. A hologram appeared, showing all 50 of Gray's hidden warships. "Your cloaking technology is very good, Captain. Or at least it was very good 50 years ago when you developed it. We've had decades to study it since we intercepted your early scout ships." Gray's hand moved toward his weapon. "You're bluffing. No one has ever detected your ships." Roberts finished. "We didn't just detect them. We've already disabled them." He pressed another button. Gray's communicator crackled to life with panic-filled voices from his support fleet. Each ship reported complete system failures. What did you do?" Gray stumbled backward. "Nothing harmful," Roberts said calmly. "Just a simple override code we found in your own database. Your ships are fine, just temporarily offline." He stood up. "Now let's talk about why the Empire thought they could threaten Earth with outdated technology and tired tricks. We have conquered thousands of worlds," Gray shouted, drawing his weapon. Roberts didn't flinch, "and that's exactly why we've been preparing. We detected your Empire's expansion centuries ago. Every scout ship you lost near our system, we captured them. Every transmission you sent, we decoded it. Every piece of technology you developed, we studied and improved it." Gray fired his weapon. The energy blast passed right through Roberts. "Hologram." Roberts's image smiled. "Did you really think I'd meet you in person when we intercepted your orders to capture Earth's leaders?" The station's lights turned red. Gray's guards tried to call for help, but their communicators were dead. "Don't worry," Roberts's voice came from speakers now. "Your crew is safe. We're transporting them to comfortable holding cells. You see, Captain, we learned everything about you, but you learned nothing about us. Humans don't just adapt technology, we improve it. We don't just fight wars, we revolutionize warfare." Gray watched helplessly as his guards were transported away by human technology that shouldn't have existed. "Your Empire thought we were primitive because we chose not to expand aggressively," Roberts continued. "You mistook our restraint for weakness. That was your first mistake." He paused. "And looking at the invasion plans in your ship's database, I suspect it will be your Empire's last mistake." As Gray felt the strange tingle of human transport technology, Roberts added one final message. "Welcome to Earth, Captain. Your Empire wanted to teach us about galactic civilization. Instead, we're going to teach you about humanity." In orbit around Earth, 50 of the Empire's best warships floated powerless, their crews watching in shock as their supposedly inferior opponents demonstrated just how badly the Empire had underestimated humanity. The real war was about to begin. The Emperor slammed his fist on his throne's armrest, making his advisors jump. The holographic display showed 50 of his best ships captured by humans without a single shot fired. "Send the Third Fleet," he growled. "Show these primitives what real Imperial power looks like." Deep in space, Fleet Commander Wilson of the Imperial Third Fleet smiled as he reviewed his forces. 5,000 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Surely this would be enough to crush one primitive world. "All ships, prepare for light jump," he ordered. "We'll show these humans what happens when you challenge the Empire." But the humans were waiting. As the Imperial fleet exited light speed near Mars, they found an empty battlefield. Earth's defense fleet was nowhere to be seen. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "we're detecting strange readings from Mars' surface." Before Wilson could respond, hundreds of hidden bases erupted from the red planet's surface. Mars had been converted into a massive fortress world. "Impossible," Wilson whispered. "Our scans showed no signs of." His words were cut short as electromagnetic pulses shot out from Mars, perfectly targeted to disable Imperial shields using their own frequency patterns. The humans had studied their technology too well. "Return fire," Wilson ordered, but as his ships launched their attacks, the human defenses simply absorbed the energy. "Sir, they're using our own weapons against us," his tactical officer reported. "They've improved the designs. Our shots are just making their shields stronger." Then the real attack began. Small human fighters appeared from hidden hangars across Mars' surface. They were tiny compared to Imperial ships, but impossibly fast. Imperial gunners couldn't lock onto them. "These aren't normal battle tactics," Wilson muttered as he watched his fleet being picked apart by ships a fraction of their size. "How are they moving like that?" The answer came from his science officer. "Sir, the human ships, they're empty. They're all controlled by artificial intelligence. They can pull maneuvers that would kill any living pilot." Wilson watched in horror as these eye-controlled fighters danced through his formation. They didn't attack randomly. Each strike was perfectly calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. "Fall back," he ordered. "Regroup at." A new voice cut through their communications. "Running so soon, Commander Wilson." It was General Thompson of Earth's Defense Force. "But we've barely started showing you what we can do." As if on cue, quantum sensors detected movement behind the Imperial fleet. Earth's main battle group had appeared, cutting off their retreat. "You see," Thompson continued, "while you were focused on Mars, we slipped our real fleet behind you. An old human tactic, we call it a pincer movement. Simple, but effective." Wilson watched helplessly as human ships surrounded his fleet. Their weapons were clearly based on Imperial designs, but modified in ways his scientists couldn't understand. "General Thompson," Wilson called out, trying to maintain his dignity, "your victory here means nothing. The Empire will send more ships. We will never stop until—" "Until what?" Thompson interrupted. "Until you run out of ships for us to capture and study. We've already downloaded your fleet's entire database. Your weapons are now our weapons, only better. Your shields are our shields, only stronger." Thompson's voice grew serious. "You should have listened to Commander Davis's warning. Humanity spent centuries fighting itself, Commander. We got very, very good at war. Then we spent decades preparing for you, studying every piece of Imperial technology we could find. Wilson's bridge rocked as precise hits disabled his engines. "Here's a lesson about humans," Thompson said. "We don't just adapt to win wars. We adapt to end them. Quickly." As Wilson watched his mighty fleet surrender to a supposedly primitive species, he finally understood the truth. The Empire hadn't been testing humanity's weakness. Humanity had been testing Imperial strength, and the Empire had failed the test. On his golden throne, the Emperor received the news of his fleet's defeat. 5,000 ships lost in less than an hour, but worse than the loss was the message Earth sent afterward. "Your move, Emperor. But remember, what you've seen is just our defensive technology. Would you like to find out what we built for offense?" For the first time in 10,000 years, the Emperor felt afraid. The hunters had become the hunted. The Imperial Science Council gathered in their emergency bunker, far beneath the capital world's surface. Holograms showed the devastating defeat at Mars playing over and over. Chief Scientist Taylor paced nervously before the assembled experts. "In just 1 week, we've lost more ships than in the last 1,000 years combined. But that's not the worst part." He waved his hand, and the hologram changed to show captured human technology. "They're not just copying our designs, they're improving them in ways we can't understand." One of the scientists raised her hand. "But how? They were primitive just decades ago." Taylor activated another hologram, this one showing human history. "That's what we got wrong. Look at their technological progression." He pointed to various images. In less than 200 years, they went from horse-drawn carriages to space travel. No other species has ever developed so fast. The room fell silent as images of human warfare through history played out before them. Every time humans faced a challenge, they didn't just overcome it. They revolutionized how to defeat it, Taylor explained. "We thought their constant wars made them primitive. Instead, each conflict pushed them to innovate faster." On the main screen, analysis of the Mars battle appeared. "See these human AI fighters. They took our basic drone technology and turned it into something that outthinks our best commanders. They don't just process data. They learn and adapt during battle." Another scientist spoke up. "But surely we can counter." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the bunker. On every screen, Imperial defense networks began shutting down one by one. "What's happening?" someone shouted. A human face appeared on the main screen. "Admiral West of Earth's Cyber Warfare Division. Hope we're not interrupting anything important," he said with a smile. "Just thought we'd demonstrate another human specialty. Hacking." Taylor watched in horror as classified files began streaming across the screens. "How did you get through our quantum encryption?" "Oh, that?" West looked amused. "We broke that encryption last week. This week's challenge was getting your coffee makers to make tea instead. Next week, who knows? We humans love a good puzzle." The images changed to show human ships appearing near Imperial core worlds. They were using the Empire's own classified hyperspace routes. "You see," West continued, "while you were studying our weapons, we were studying everything about you. Your tactics, your technology, your culture. We even learned your favorite songs. Though honestly, your pop music needs work." Another scientist activated their emergency shutdown systems. "Nothing happened. We don't just adapt technology," West explained. "We transform it. Those defense satellites you built, we taught them to think for themselves. Guess what? They like us better." Taylor slumped in his chair. "Why are you showing us all this?" "Because unlike you, we believe in fair warnings," West replied. "In about an hour, every Imperial world will receive a simple choice: surrender and join the new human-led alliance, or," he shrugged, "well, let's hope it doesn't come to that." The screen showed more human ships appearing throughout Imperial space. They weren't just warships. There were humanitarian vessels, medical ships, and construction fleets. "See, that's another thing you got wrong about us," West said. "We're not just good at fighting wars. We're even better at building peace. Those worlds you conquered, We're offering them freedom, protection, and technological advancement, and they're accepting. Taylor looked at the data streaming past. The humans weren't just defeating the Empire. They were dismantling it with kindness as much as force. One last thing, West added before signing off. We found your secret research on biological weapons. Not very sporting of you. We've taken the liberty of neutralizing those facilities. Kindly don't make us do that again. As the transmission ended, Taylor turned to his fellow scientists. Do you understand now? We're not losing a war of weapons. We're losing a war of innovation. The humans don't just learn from their mistakes. They learn from ours. Outside the bunker, the first human relief ships were already landing on the capital world, bringing with them something the Empire had never offered its subjects: choice. The age of the Empire was ending. The age of humanity was beginning. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other civilizations were receiving their first warnings about humans, not from the Empire, but from their own observation posts, as they watched humanity reshape the galaxy in ways no one had imagined possible. The Emperor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red warning lights blinked everywhere, showing world after world choosing to join the humans. It wasn't just military defeats anymore. Entire systems were voluntarily abandoning the Empire. How many worlds have we lost? He asked quietly. His advisor checked the latest reports. 3,000 systems in the past week alone. My Emperor, the humans. He hesitated. They're not just conquering. They're offering things we never did. On the main screen, images showed human ships delivering advanced medical technology to formerly oppressed worlds. They were teaching Imperial subjects how to build their own ships, their own defense systems. They're making our own people stronger, the Emperor realized. But why? His answer came in the form of a transmission from the newly established Human Alliance headquarters. Commander Rogers appeared on screen, looking calm and professional. Good morning, Emperor, Rogers said. I thought you might want to see something interesting. The display changed to show a former Imperial mining world. Where slaves once dug rare minerals by hand, advanced automated systems now did the work. The former slaves were in schools, learning to operate the machinery. This is what you never understood about humans, Rogers explained. We don't want slaves or subjects. We want partners, allies, people who stand with us because they choose to, not because they're forced to. The Emperor watched as more images appeared. Former Imperial worlds were flourishing under human guidance. Poverty was disappearing. Education was spreading. And most worryingly, they were all learning to defend themselves. You spent thousands of years keeping your subjects weak, Rogers continued. We're spending our time making them strong. Guess whose approach is working better? A new alert flashed on the Emperor's screen. The Imperial First Fleet, his last major military force, had just surrendered without a fight. The crew had mutinied after seeing broadcasts from human-controlled worlds. Your own people are choosing us, Rogers said. Not because we're stronger, but because we're offering something you never did: respect. The Emperor slumped in his throne. What do you want? Total surrender. Rogers shook his head. Actually, we have a different proposal. Your empire lasted for 10,000 years because, despite its flaws, it brought some stability to the galaxy. We don't want to destroy that stability. We want to improve it. New images appeared, showing plans for a galactic council where all worlds would have equal voice. Join us, Rogers offered, not as our subject, but as our partner. Help us build something better than an empire. Help us create a true alliance of worlds. The Emperor laughed bitterly. And if I refuse? Then we continue what we're doing, Rogers shrugged. Your worlds will keep joining us one by one. Your fleets will keep surrendering. And eventually, you'll be emperor of nothing but an empty palace. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the imperial palace. The emperor's personal guard rushed in, looking panicked. The defense grid, they reported. It's gone. The humans just turned it off. Rogers smiled. Actually, we turned it off 3 days ago. We just let you think it was still working. Consider it a demonstration of why fighting us would be pointless." The Emperor stood slowly. 10,000 years of imperial history weighed on his shoulders. "You could have conquered us completely. Why offer partnership instead?" "Because that's the real difference between humans and your empire," Rogers explained. "You see victory as domination. We see it as an opportunity to make things better. For everyone." Looking at his tactical display one last time, the Emperor made his decision. The humans had already won, not through superior firepower, but through superior ideas. They had turned his own empire against him not with weapons, but with hope. "Very well," he said quietly. "Let us discuss this Galactic Council of yours." As the negotiations began, news spread throughout the galaxy. The mighty empire hadn't fallen to human weapons. It had fallen to human ideals. The species that the empire had dismissed as primitive had not just defeated them, they had transformed them. And across the stars, other civilizations watched and learned an important lesson. Beware the humans, not because they are great warriors, but because they make everyone around them stronger. The monster the empire feared had turned out to be something far more powerful than a conqueror. It was a teacher. The High Council chamber, once a place of imperial power, now served a different purpose. Former imperial counselors sat side by side with human representatives and leaders from newly liberated worlds. The chamber's golden walls remained, but the emperor's throne had been replaced by a simple round table. High Counselor Ross, who had once dismissed the first warnings about humans, now watched in amazement as human engineers transformed the capital city before his eyes. Flying vehicles filled the skies, not with weapons, but with construction materials and medical supplies. "I still don't understand," he said to Admiral Roberts, who stood beside him at the chamber's great window. "You could have destroyed us completely. Why help us rebuild instead?" Roberts pointed to a group of children playing in a new park below. Human kids alongside imperial youngsters, sharing games and laughter. "That's why," Roberts said simply. "Destruction is easy. Building something better, that's the real challenge. And humans love a good challenge." Their conversation was interrupted by urgent news. The last holdout of imperial resistance, led by hardline Admiral Stone, was approaching the capital world with a stolen superweapon. Finally, Stone's message boomed across all channels. A chance to show these humans what real imperial power looks like. Ross expected panic. Instead, Roberts smiled and pressed his communicator. "Control, initiate Project Guardian." Around the capital world, thousands of small satellites activated. They were a new human design, smaller than imperial satellites but far more advanced. "You see," Roberts explained to Ross, "while Admiral Stone was stealing that superweapon, we let him think he was being sneaky. In reality, we've spent the last month studying every detail of its systems." Stone's superweapon charged up, its main cannon glowing with enough power to crack a planet. But when he fired, something unexpected happened. The beam vanished into what appeared to be a pocket of folded space. "Impossible." Stone's voice cracked. "What did you do?" "Oh, that," Roberts said casually into the comm. "Just a little trick we developed. We call it spatial redirection. Your weapon's energy just got sent into deep space. Well, most of it. We kept some to power our cities. Waste not, want not, you know." Ross watched in awe as human ships surrounded Stone's fleet. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. "Admiral Stone," Roberts called out. "Your own crew is already talking to us. They've seen what we're building here. They want to be part of it. The question is, do you?" On the main screen, they could see Stone's crew laying down their weapons. The last pocket of imperial resistance was ending not with a battle, but with a choice. "I still don't understand your species," Ross admitted. "You master warfare but prefer peace. You gain power but share it freely. You defeat enemies but turn them into friends." Roberts nodded to a group of former Imperial scientists working alongside human engineers. Look at them. A month ago, they were developing weapons to destroy us. Now they're helping us develop cures for diseases. That's the real victory. And what happens next? Ross asked. Next, Roberts smiled. Next, we do what humans do best. We explore, we learn, we grow, and we do it together. Stone's ship landed peacefully. As the crew disembarked, they were met not by prison guards, but by integration teams ready to help them find their place in the new society. You know what the funny thing is? Roberts said to Ross. Your empire spent 10,000 years trying to create perfect order through force. We created a better system in under a month just by giving people choice. Ross looked out at the transformed capital. Where imperial banners once hung, new flags flew, not of Earth or the Empire, but of the United Galactic Alliance. Ships of all species moved freely through the skies. Former enemies worked side by side. Perhaps, Ross said slowly, the Empire's greatest achievement was finding humanity, even if we didn't know it at the time. Roberts nodded. Every ending is just a new beginning. The Empire's time is over. The age of cooperation is beginning. And across the galaxy, the news spread. The Empire hadn't just been defeated, it had been transformed. Humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their technology or their tactics. It had been hope. 10 years had passed since the Empire first encountered humanity. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Archives, an alien historian was recording the most important message ever sent to other galaxies. The historian, once an Imperial record-keeper, looked at his human colleague, Professor Adams, as they reviewed the final draft of their warning message. Begin transmission to all neighboring galaxies, the historian spoke clearly. The message started with images of the old Empire, mighty, fearsome, and seemingly unbeatable. Then it showed humanity's rise and the Empire's transformation. To all advanced civilizations who might be watching, the message began, "This is a warning, but not the kind you expect. We need to tell you about humans." Professor Adams nodded as the message continued. You might think humans are just another spacefaring species. You might see their single world and think them weak. The Empire made that mistake. Let us tell you what happened next. The transmission showed scenes from the past decade. Imperial warships transformed into exploration vessels, weapon factories converted to research centers, slave worlds turned into thriving civilizations. Humans don't just win wars, they win peace. They don't just defeat enemies, they transform them into allies. And most importantly, they don't just advance themselves, they lift everyone around them. In orbit above the capital world, the massive station of the Galactic Science Academy gleamed. Inside, beings from 10,000 worlds worked together, sharing knowledge freely. Imperial scientists who once hoarded secrets now taught students from every corner of the galaxy. If you value your empire, the message continued, if you treasure your position of power over others, then yes, run from the humans, because they will change everything. The historian paused the recording. Are we being too dramatic? Adams smiled and pointed out the window. Below, in what was once the Emperor's private garden, children from 100 different species played together. They were using teaching tools that combined imperial construction techniques with human creativity, building things that neither civilization could have made alone. Continue the message, Adams said softly. But if you value progress over power, if you seek allies rather than subjects, then we offer a different warning. Prepare yourselves. Humanity is expanding, not through conquest, but through cooperation. The transmission showed the newest human innovation, massive exploration ships crewed by mixed species teams, ready to explore other galaxies. In just 10 years, they took our weapons and turned them into tools. They took our prisons and turned them into schools. They took our fear and turned it into hope. On the screen, images showed the transformation of the former imperial capital. Where once stood monuments to power, now stood centers of learning and cooperation. The Emperor's Palace had become the Galactic Cultural Center, where art and ideas from all species mixed freely. The Empire ruled through fear for 10,000 years. Humanity changed us through hope in less than a decade. They don't want to rule the galaxy. They want to help it grow. The historian added the final scenes, the launch of the first intergalactic exploration fleet, crewed by humans and former Imperial citizens working together as equals. So this is our warning. If you meet humans, you have two choices: fight them and lose everything you built through force, or join them and build something better than you ever imagined. Adams added the final lines himself. The Empire no longer exists to warn you about humans. Instead, humans exist to warn you about empires. Change is coming. The only question is, will you fear it or embrace it? As they sent the message into the depths of space, the historian looked at his human friend. Do you think other galaxies will understand? Adams watched as another exploration fleet prepared for launch. Former Imperial warriors served alongside human scientists, their combined knowledge making them stronger than either would have been alone. They'll understand, he said confidently. And if they don't, we'll show them. That's what humans do best. We show people a better way is possible. The message streaked across space, carrying humanity's real warning to the universe. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because an empire didn't listen to one simple warning. If you value your empire, run from the humans. But now, across the stars, a new message spread. If you value growth, welcome them.